Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of GeekVerse podcast. I am the Boromired Taylor Field, and I am joined by.
I am the tears I cry. Kirkland Patzer with an oven there in the middle
That's
for some reason.
That's the
a
third
weird
time
way to
this
say
week. Kirkland's
that.
crying a lot.
I alternated.
I will say.
Did we say if we are monetized on that or something?
You used it on Joker and you used it on Agatha. No strike by YouTube. So I think
Nice.
it's so
Oh.
short. So there you go.
Love it.
I'm Mr. Mouse, still Mus.
I'm the Clown Prince of Deceiving, Travis Snell.
Yes, we are here for episode 7, as Travis would say, the penultimate episode of Rings of Power Season 2. We're going to be getting into the non-spoilers first, then jump into spoilers after that. But before we get into all of that wonderful stuff, a couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection. In the search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. Now, do me and everyone else here a personal favor. Go check out our Patreon because you can get ad-free, exclusive, early, wonderful content there. Lots of retros and other things just popping off. It's a great place to go and explore. But what's even more great is the legendary Patreon producers. Thank you, Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Jack Grant, Mud, Sam, Superbad Mike, God Loves Me 69, and Jeremy Renner, not
I'm
Reiner.
sure Lenny Kravitz
Renner.
soon is going to be on there too, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he popped this into the
Lenny.
search query a little bit.
He told me he was just waiting for the this week's check to come through, and then he's gonna
Yeah.
open that sub. So
The check is
This
never
week's
late.
check.
It arrives precisely what it
Exactly.
means to you.
Yes, so what do we got popping off here? Joker, Folie à Deux next week. We did a Joker retrospective. We got Agatha that's popping off. We got Penguin, episode 2, that's going to be popping off on the Sunday. So there's lots and lots of content. Side quest, Dylan, what's going on there?
side quest. We had a nice discussion this week. Me and Kirkland talked about Plucky Squire, UFO 50, a bunch of other games. And next week, Taylor, we got some juicy news.
I was going to
I
say,
may have
I'm excited to hear Taylor's thoughts on
yeah.
some stuff. Yeah.
And I may have impulse bought the new Zelda, so we'll also be talking about that.
Oh,
So it's going to be a
impulse
juicy
buys.
episode as well. So good time to go check that out.
Impulsive.
Impulse.
like it.
It was slightly impulse. I had a voucher on my
oh,
Switch. So I was like, oh, I paid for this months ago. This is a free game. I might as well pick it up.
exactly.
Oh, there you go. Vouchers are good stuff. Oh, I think that's pretty much everything I got plugs-wise, unless I'm missing something. I mean, we got Extra Life Charity that's sneaking around this November, but
Yeah, we should start promoting that. Let me get that date out there because we do 24 hours. We haven't announced too much stuff. We're still talking because we've all been very busy this year. So this year it's going to be a very bag 'em and tag 'em sort of event, but it's going to be November 2nd, 24 hours. Baggins and Daggins. It's going to be November 2nd. All we know is we know the trivia will be back. We know that Dylan and Kirkland are playing chess.
Oh,
we
yeah.
know that we're going to do an X-Men, well, just a Marvel arcade level or arcade hour because
Just one
of
level.
us- yeah, that's it. No, one of us is going to buy that Marvel arcade game, but yeah, we're going to play that. So we got 3 and just general gaming. Of course, guests are coming around, but yeah, I'm mad. I don't even know what our goal will be. I think usually we just said 2,500, probably be around there. So yeah, everything you donate goes to the children and is tax deductible. So yeah, do that. I'll actually probably make that my goal this long weekend. So I will have more information for everyone. So thank you, Taylor, for reminding me. But 24 hours, November 2nd, be there for the kids.
be there for the kids. Well, you know what we're also going to be there for? We're going to be there for the citizens of Middle Earth because let's get into it. Who wants to take away the non-spoilers thoughts right now of episode 7?
I will take that torch and I will hold it.
take it.
I feel like I don't have much to say on this episode. I mean, it is a very simple episode when you look at it. In terms of this show, usually has a million storylines. This one was fairly focused. Now, a lot did happen in there, but I thought this episode was okay. I think there was some good, fun like battle sequences and some interesting things. But then I think just the classics of some subpar acting at moments or some weird writing. There's a couple of moments in general. I was like, whoa, where did that come from? I didn't feel like that was set up very well, and that happened on a couple occasions. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to talk to you guys about this. Definitely have some questions. Definitely a lot that goes on. And man, one moment that just had me laughing maniacally on my sofa watching this. It was fucking hilarious. So I can't wait to talk about that moment too. So it was a fun episode. I just don't think it was an all-time great Lord of the Rings hour. You know what I mean?
I'll take the sword for next because I'm the exact opposite. I think this is my favorite episode of the entire series. I love this episode. I don't think Dylan's wrong that there are some questionable things in this episode, but I thought the pacing was really good. Loved everything we'll get to, but loved everything with Anatar, Sauron, Celebrimbor. Like that to me finally paid off in a way that I was hoping for. It was a bumpy road nonetheless, but I'm liking where we're landing. I thought for the most part the battle stuff was really good. Particularly, there's a part in the third act that's really good. What else was there that I really enjoyed? I'm liking. That's probably too much of a spoiler to say, so I'll hold that. But no, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, there are some questionable things. I don't think I've ever gotten a Rings of Power episode that's like a 10 out of 10, like by itself. So that's what I had curated as. But no, I absolutely loved this episode for the most part. That they delivered on the big battle more so than last season. I think they gave some big moments, and I'm very excited to see where we go next week. And as far as the bad comment, also rivals Acolyte for having the worst credit song of the year. So I will give it to
hard
that. Was
agree on that for sure.
It's not even a spoiler because it's just a
That's
song.
what the orcs are listening to.
It ends and it's full on screamo heavy metal. I'm like, this is. I hate to be that guy. Not Lord of the Rings. Not my Lord of the Rings. I get it. Star Wars did the same thing. Dylan, you weren't around. They did a pop song in the Acolyte credits for one of the episodes. There's a full on original pop song, and same thing. It's like, nope, that's not Star Wars, and that for me is not Lord of the Rings. So for someone that was loving the episode, like, oh, when it ended like that, just left a bad taste in my mouth. I muted it.
Ended like this.
It should have. It should have. Especially where the episode ended, those tears should have cried. But no, we got the tears will cry. So yes, but overall I had a good time.
Oh man, yeah, I really did enjoy this episode. For the vast majority of it, I think there is one unspeakable horror that happens in this episode, and man, I'm right there with you, Dylan, on like the humor scene. I'm curious if it's the same one I'm thinking of because I actually burst out laughing. I was so shocked when it happened, and
Does it involve a wall?
It does.
Absolutely.
Involve a wall.
That is- yeah.
Man, I laughed so hard. It like, especially with how fast it happened. It felt like a comedy skit with
I
just
need
how
that
quickly it
GIF.
happened.
Yeah, I had to rewind because Emma was watching me. I couldn't believe what happened. I'm like,
quick.
yeah, and then I'll talk about spoilers because I thought something else had happened at first. But yeah, it quite a moment.
I'm gonna beat around the bush here. I heard like a somewhat rumor of like a theory of someone had on what this individual was, and I was so worried we're gonna go that route, and then I felt like in that moment it was like, okay, nice. we're not going there. So
That's funny.
but yeah, that was hilarious. But for the most part, like, yeah, I think this is a really, really good episode. I'm completely in agreement with Travis on the Celebrimbor Anatar stuff. Like, I thought that was just so fantastic, and I've kind of been like back and forth with Celebrimbor, I think, since his inclusion, and this episode I think was my favorite one that he was a part of. So yeah, for the most part, I think this was fantastic. Just visually beautiful. Definitely, yeah, definitely was good eye candy to watch this week, and yeah, it's gonna be an interesting finale. And yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say right now. I'll save it for the spoilers.
I love this episode. My goodness. And I feel like the past few episodes have really just been sealing the deal for me. And this one just, man, it was just lock, stock, and barrel. I loved it. And so, yeah, just the show is starting to really, really feel like a Lord of the Rings to me now, and I'm really happy about that. And of course, like the first season, that was just new stories and whatnot. But the start of this season was again continuing those stories and lots of different trajectories and some stuff that I don't really care about at this point. But getting to really be in this focused narrative now with some stories kind of converging, and we're much further ahead in development with our characters. I really like that. And with how concentrated on the narrative this episode was, it didn't feel like we were tackling a bunch of different things. It was just precise, to the point, and just this is what we're dealing with. And I really, really liked that. It was great. And it just felt like Middle Earth. There's a few things that I will bring up in spoilers that just kind of pulled me out of it, just the way certain elves were. And maybe I only say that just because of comparison to the actual Lord of the Rings movies, where those elves feel very different in comparison to what these elves act like.
Different universe,
in
Taylor.
different
Different
I know,
universe.
different universe, totally different universe. But those elves in Lord of the Rings just set the bar so high, and just their mannerisms and the way their actions are, and just seeing certain elves here, they're just it's just different. But that's okay. It's a different interpretation, and I understand that. Different universe, as you say, Travis. So there's that. But all in all, I think that the stuff with Celebrimbor and more kind of stuff coming out of just Sauron as a character, Anatar, really, really awesome. Really, really liking it. And yeah, I too laughed at a few different things, mostly just the Celebrimbor stuff. I feel like I should pity him, but he just cracks me up because there's just shit going on with him, and I just fucking laugh about it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what you guys were alluding to, but there's another scene that just fucking cracks me up because it happened twice, and it just thought, man, this fucking guy. So I'll bring that up in spoilers when we get to it. But yeah, I made a few notes on just the episode, a few things, and some more orc stuff too that I would bring up because I thought, man, this is just fucked, and it just kind of goes back to just the few episodes ago when they're like their family orcs and stuff like that. So this is just
That guy was back. That same guy was back.
He's back.
Yeah.
He's always back. Yeah, but I'll leave it at that, and we'll get into some spoilers after this quick ad break. And we are back. So who wants to steer us down the spoiler narrative here? What do you want to start with?
Lots of avenues, lots of roads to take.
Lots of roads.
I'll start us off. Do we think Aronde is for sure dead?
Aronde.
Whatever his name is. What the hell?
Arondir.
Arondir. Thank you.
Oh, our
Dylan.
little woodland elf.
That's his brother, Arondo.
Yeah,
whatever.
no.
It's like you took Ariana Grande's name and just pushed it together.
Condensed it.
They're related. Yeah, wicked. everything.
I'll say, yeah, he's definitely not dead. It just seemed a little too easy, a little too quick of a send off.
He did get stabbed like twice
So
completely
did
through
Adar,
the body.
right?
so-
You stabbed Adar as well.
Yeah, but that was like with an arrow.
Yeah.
But I think Adar got him with like a couple blades, right?
So
Or at least one blade.
here's the thing. I know last week Taylor asked, like, okay, because I said kill off some characters, and he said, who would you kill off? And I listed him as one of the ones that should go, right? Now, I was completely fine if he's dead. I think it's really lame. I would have been fine if he, took out Adar with him, because it's like, okay, that's kind of a story, right? He has the love of his life. She dies. He does die as well, but he kills him. That's fine. If Adar just kills him, leaves him laying in the middle of the field, what a bitch character overall. Like, if this is the end of that character, I feel like kind of a waste. I feel like we did nothing with him. So I'm kind of, for some reason, hoping he's alive, because I got like a little excited by the wars happening, and you see him perched up and he's looking and he's talking with Galadriel. It's like what we talked about, like, oh, start putting some of these storylines together. So it's like, okay, maybe I'll like him with the crew. And then it's like, oh, they killed him. I don't think he's dead, because he still is trying to reach for Adar at the end. I think he would have got a bigger scene, but that's what I'll say. If he is dead, what just a bitch character in Rings of Power, and man, what a waste of time. So we'll see. But I think next week they'll find him in the rubble, and he'll oh, where's Adar?
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be surviving through this. And I thought that moment would have really worked, and it seems like they wanted to save some of that for the finale. But like, man, we have potentially too much, I will say, to cover in the finale here. But I thought that moment of them killing each other could have been a pretty fitting end to both of their stories. But it is a bit weird. Like, I guess Adar, he is the leader. He should be badass, but we don't really see him doing a lot of physically badass things. It's more just he's the leader, and I guess he killed Sauron once, or pseudo killed him with the crown. So that was kind of badass. But for the most part, we Arondir, everything he does, this guy is like max level. He's got the best gear. He's the Legolas.
Those
of
spin kicks he
Rings
was
of
throwing
Power.
out
Yeah,
today?
he is
Oh,
insane.
yeah.
Acrobatics is maxed out. Marksman, all this stuff, and so it does feel like, okay, that maybe we could see it as okay, his rage blinded him from fighting at his best ability, but it seemed like I almost said Arondir. It seemed like Adar almost took out Arondir in a bit too easy of a way. And it's funny, the moment earlier when he saves or helps save Galadriel from the camp, because she picks the lock and all that, but then he snipes some orcs. It was such a movie thing where I was like, oh, you have the perfect shot of the guy you want to kill, and classic movie, you're never gonna do it, and then he was he took the bow out. He was about to snipe him. Damn, he's actually going to do it. That's so cool. I feel like that's very against how these things normally go, the trope. And then she convinces him not to do it. This is not Adar's day to die, whatever she says there. But he should have done it, because look at this. When he gets toe-to-toe with him, he fucked up. He had the clearest headshot. If I'm playing Sniper Elite, that is the easiest kill ever. And he just totally dropped the ball for not much of a reason, in my opinion.
Because then Galadriel just say like a lot of good, like again, if he does die, and she's like a lot of good elves have died today. It's like, and he still went to die. It's just that's like he can't be dead. There's no way he's dead. He has to be kicking. And I kind of hope he is the one to kill Adar because I just don't know what else I want him to do. Galadriel, I feel like she can't kill Sauron, unfortunately, but I feel like she has to like maybe defeat him in a battle when the show ends or something. I don't know. She's still trying to avenge her brother's death. Remember, so.
It feels like she's too good to kill Adar, like with her
Yes,
weird
I agree.
moral standings. But I feel like Rondir, he's lost too many people to him specifically that he would do it.
And I think they keep doing this. I think with Galadriel and Adar, like she sees some of herself in him for some reason of like that kind of cast out by his own people, and he was an elf, right? Like there's just moments when he was talking to his elves, she was watching him like not respectfully, but just kind of understanding, not like a disgusting person. Even though Adar in this episode was becoming much more like the Sauron everyone hated, because like Taylor alluded, that orc was back, and because the troll came in and he's like, oh, he's gonna kill some of our orcs, and Adar just like, oh, just send him anyways. And then later on, skip 10 minutes when he sent himself and all the orcs, that one orc like slink back, and he's like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. So they're still giving this orc screen time. I hope next year that doesn't happen, but yeah, Adar's slowly becoming what Sauron is. So I wonder if that's going to be how Sauron gets all his orcs back, is they start to think like, oh, Adar was better, but he actually isn't. He's just kind of the same,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't know. I was never the biggest fan of Adar. I feel like maybe my interest in him peaked like in his first inception into the show overall, just because it's a very different type of character than I've witnessed before in the Lord of the Rings mythos. But just watching this episode and thinking about like the previous ones, I'm just like, this guy's such a fucking idiot, man. Like really, like his plan is to just burn down Eregion because he's like, Sauron's in there, even though it's like, I don't know, from Galadriel's perspective, it's just like so obvious that like one, Sauron doesn't even have an army, so if Adar just doesn't go there, like they can actually like figure out the Sauron threat. Like the elves, like why my gosh, weird way to say that. The elves can just handle like the Sauron threat. Give them more time to actually just get there, and because like if you take out Adar's folk, I'll just call them now, the invasion that they're doing, like Galadriel and like Elrond, like they would have eventually got there, and the city would not have been burnt. Like it I don't know. It's just he's so set on like, yeah, like my main threat isn't the elves, it's Sauron, and like I don't know, just this whole invasion plan to me is just so weak of like a motivation for it, and to me it's just hard to kind of buy it. I don't like, especially his whole like just mantra around it is like he just wants peace for his for his kin. And to get that, they have to get rid of Sauron. And now he's just like throwing his like children, under the boot of his troll that he's bringing here. And it's just like this episode was really emphasized of like the orcs are starting to see kind of Adar just really disregard kind of what his overall just mantra was of like my main goal is to keep my children safe. And then in this one the Uruk is like, you can't bring the troll in. He's gonna kill our own. And it's like, send the men to die. It's like
which is
that.
weird because like that's where it's like for me my issues with the show was Adar and the other orcs. I said like, oh, I don't really enjoy these characters having like the third dimension, right? Of they might have some other motivations, but it's like that's what they've set Adar to be. But it felt like in this episode, he's fuck that. Like they just threw out all the character motivation of this character, and I was very surprised. I was like, okay, and that's why I was gonna. If he would have died, maybe he dies next week. Then I guess I kind of get it because they might play it as a tale of okay, him not respecting his people cost him his death. But I still don't think he's gonna die next week. I actually don't think so. I still think he's gonna carry on in the next year. Or next season. So, but yeah, it feels very sudden. Where just an episode 2 ago, very for the people, very for his orcs, but now he's just like, oh, send in the pawns or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, so he's just Sauron but lame, so cool.
It's got a cool sword though.
Yeah,
I like his sword.
He caught the arrow. Arondir shot and he caught it. That was cool. So
I'm still adjusting to some of the just changes to the orcs here. Like when that whole sequence comes out where Elrond and his squad from Lindon are showing up, and Adar's there with Galadriel, and they're like, okay, we'll break from this. Mm-hmm. We'll meet in my camp. We'll have a conversation. Did the whole sequence when Elrond is leaving and he gets saddled up on his horse, and all the orcs are just kind of standing there. I'm like, man, in the Lord of the Rings I'm used to, like these orcs, they would not give a shit. They would just rip this guy to shreds. So
I
it's
agree.
interesting to see them with, like, I guess they've like devolved over the years or transformed. Or I'm curious to see how that evolves just even in this television show, like over the course of these next seasons, if they change more of that or if they're just really going to stick to it. Because I know obviously there's like thousands of years that pass between presumably where this show's going to end and then Lord of the Rings picks up. So that's time for them to evolve or change or be from a different source and all that. But yeah, that scene really stood out to me, just how chill that was and how much Adar follows like, you know, the Geneva Convention pretty much of like the Middle Earthian world. It's interesting.
Parlay.
Yeah, parlay.
That's a cool shot though when they're in the middle and like on the left side it's all the Elrond and the elves and it's very lit and bright, and then on the right it's like shadowed and dark and it's like kind of decrepit. I was like, okay, I like the.
I thought the Lindens, like, it was like almost oversaturated. It felt
little. Yes, I agree.
Little goofy to me, honestly. The color grading was a bit much, but I did like the comparison as you mentioned.
One of the things here, because you're talking about the orcs, that kind of threw me off was, of course, we had them introduce the concept of family orcs, children, all that kind of stuff. The orcs didn't want to
Family
go
orcs.
fighting, right? And then
What
in this
clan are you?
episode, you have Elrond's horse gets slain, and you just pans up, and you see this orc slit its throat, then licking his knife. Now I'm thinking, okay, not all these orcs are in the same, kind of pedestal here, but I've been so far led to believe that these orcs are fighting reluctantly. A lot of them are fleeing because they don't want to fight, and the ones that are fighting are because they care about their way of life and care about their families and their babies and whatnot. And now here you have an orc who's just, for whatever the fucking reason, is just licking horse blood off of his knife. What, for his kid? Like,
He's not a family orc, Taylor. Not a
He's
family
apparently
orc.
not a family orc. I wasn't
The adrenaline
buying it.
must be just
like,
pumping through
if
his little
I'm
orc
just
body.
hypothetically, if I'm going to war here and I'm fighting, I'm not going to be like slaying the enemy's fucking horse and like licking the blood, like like
but-
laughing.
At the same time, there are, like, even in real life, right? There's soldiers that go to war to fight for their country, and then there's soldiers that go to war because they just want to shoot a fucking gun at people, right? So I don't have really an issue with that because there's human races like that just want to, be bullies or power dynamics, right? And gun tote. So I can.
But then that's where I think they should do a better job at telling the story, I guess. I mean, that being said, they shouldn't even have the orcs like that, period. I don't like, and that
I
just
agree.
goes to reaffirm, like, yeah, the orcs don't need to have like the children, the families, and all that kind of stuff. Like, just keep the orcs as this, as you said, Dylan, this de-evolved kind of race that's just fucking angry and like jumping around, climbing trees and shit. So
climbing trees.
They're like monkeys, yeah. Apes.
The monkey orcs, yeah.
It's like
The
Planet of
Neander,
the Apes.
yeah, Neander orcs. There you go.
Neander orcs, yeah.
That's a mouthful. Let's not say that ever again. Let's talk about the big moment. I think this is the big moment, right? Because Dylan was talking about, Elrond went to the camp and they did parlay, so we're in this moment already, right? So we get this moment where
Parlay.
Galadriel, she has a knife up to her throat, starts to bleed, so they got to press against her hard, threaten her life. And then they start talking, and because me and Taylor had talked about this, because he messaged me right when it happened. Because in our Discord of just our GV quads here, I said, "Oh, this Kirkland's not gonna like this." So as
And I did
Elrond's
not.
saying goodbye,
My prediction was wrong too. I thought it was going to be a Bombadil related thing, but Bombadil was nowhere to be found.
Kirkland would take a whole Bombadil episode instead of this. So Elrond doesn't take Adar's proposal, gonna leave. Before he leaves, he gives a big passionate kiss to Galadriel. Now, Taylor's right that, of course, he does give her something to get out of lock, whatever. But for me, I one, think you could just kiss her on the forehead and do the same thing. But then two, I just think it's the way that it's framed. It's the same way as like in Rise of Skywalker when the Reylo kiss happened. And then J.J. Abrams said, oh, so it's just a kiss of gratitude. And it's like, well, no, they're using tongue over here. And it's the same thing here where it's like, I didn't see no tongue, but they shot it in a very romantic way.
There's
And
tongue.
if that's a route they go, because I'm not even what's the guy? Who's your boy Kirkland?
Where's Celeborn?
Celeborn. Yeah, I'm not rooting for that. It's just that like they have to me Like I felt like I was watching a brother and sister kiss today. Like they've had no romantic chemistry. They've not set that up at all. So if they make some sort of joke next episode or in the future, if like, oh, did you have to do that to give me the key? And I don't know what he can even say that's not creepy, but to me it felt like to me it felt
Maybe the key was in the mouth.
maybe. And then how else was supposed to get a key to you? Great, but the way they shot that to me, I was like, oh boy, I don't like this. So this is a wait and see, but I'm taking it as they're starting some romantic, and that's a con for me. Not even because the canon, just because it doesn't set up, and I don't think they've had that type of chemistry. It was weird to see it. It was very odd. This episode.
I was not expecting it at all. Like it like totally was like holy fuck, is this actually happening right now? Because yeah, like take my own like I don't know personal feelings about this this dynamic. And it wasn't set up at any point. I don't think. Like I'm even trying to think back at like season 1. They just always seemed like more of a brother sister like friend dynamic for what you laid out there. And yeah, like I imagine they're trying to play it off that like yeah that was a distraction for him to give her the key, but I think the execution was just so awful. And like I don't know. I'm not kissing my sister on the lips to hand her a key in a situation
Would you if
like
she
that.
would die otherwise, Kirkland?
That
Of course.
Probably,
Oh
but
my
like
god,
fuck.
probably.
Yeah, that's
probably.
weird. That's
I don't
strange.
know. Just you gotta,
That much tongue that
you know.
Elrond was shoving in there. I don't know. That's weird, but
That elven tongue?
yeah, it was so weird, and I'm interested to see what the follow up is, and like just. So we're gonna get married now? Like what's gonna happen next time they meet? Are they just not even gonna talk about it, and that like makes it more awkward? It's strange choice, and out of left field, it felt big time. And Galadriel's she's got Halbrand, she's got Elrond, she's got Celeborn somewhere, and
You got Adar over
the
here.
winds.
Yeah, Adar for
Wait,
sure.
he was like,
yeah.
oh,
Oh
damn.
yeah,
I
big
bet
Adar.
I bet they don't even like interact till next
Season 4.
If they interact, no. If they interact next episode, it's like very lightly. But I feel like the writers are gonna read the room, and it's kind of like I don't know if you guys remember that season they tried to put Dexter and Deborah together, and everyone fucking hated. And then the
God,
next,
that's when I dropped off. I think that's
Yeah.
my last season I watched.
and then the next season they just completely fucking dropped it, and it was like, oh, that wasn't a thing, and they just said Deb was going through shit. Like I think this is, even if they say, oh no, like that was never the route we're going, I don't believe them. I think this is the route they're going, and they're gonna drop it fast. I don't see people liking this story at all.
Yeah. It was just super unearned for me. It wasn't set up very well, and the fact that we spend most of this season, as we talked about, I think last episode, like Galadriel's been mostly absent this season, just getting a couple little random scenes here or there. It's been since what was it, episode 3 when they got split up from each other in this season? Like that, it's been a while since that. It was like a month ago. that the last time that they've. And in the universe here, that could be like years long, like because once again the time and teleportation in this show is just absolutely wild and hard to understand. But yeah, it was very unearned, and like the fact that it led into this plot point where he passed the thing along, sure, but I feel like they weren't just doing it for that reason. They're also trying to lay the breadcrumb down for that to pick up, and presumably next season. I think I'll predict season 3, not season 4. For that to continue. But yeah, it feels like they're definitely laying that down for it to happen in the future, which I don't know. I guess I don't really have much of an issue with it if they're going down that path, but it definitely was surprising here. And it's also I feel like the elves as a race are it's a very sexless race. I feel like there's not a lot of intimacy going on in the
What
elven
about
world.
Arwen?
But that's
her
like
and
with
Aragorn?
a man,
A
you
lot
know?
of
Okay.
sex.
A horny
fair.
man.
So if an
regular
elf
old
sees a
man.
man, if the elf's tracked to a man, it's Bang City. But elves, it's more just like a hand holding situation.
Probably some orgies going
Yeah.
on in the deep woods. We don't.
I
know.
mean,
don't-
given
they don't even
how
have to
long
touch,
their
they just look
lives
at you.
are and how many, like I don't know how many kids an average family has, but in this time, they probably can't be just banging all the time, or else they'd be just overpopulated if they have 10,000 year lifespans, right?
Or that's how they're so
point,
powerful, though. There's so many of them. They're like the orcs.
But then resources, Middle Earth can only handle so. Look at Lyndon at the start of
It's
whatever
true.
this season's like decaying.
Yeah, it's freshly mined.
Yeah.
So I think that the kiss is, it was uncalled for. Pulled me out of it a little bit, but I definitely can get on board with the fact that, okay, he was doing it as
Just the way
a
you're
way
starting to
to-
say that, I think
I
I
can
can
get
get
on board with
I
this,
like
yeah.
Like,
this.
I liked it though.
I just think that he did it as a means of just distraction. 8 hours probably like on his pulled out of the situation as we were watching it, but it was just a method of just him trying to sneak this little lockpick into her hands. I think it will all depend. My reception of this scene will all depend how they move forward with it. If they don't kiss again, and have any real kind of like relationship kind of dynamic, then I feel like, okay, yeah, he just did it just to really distract them and just slide this thing to her. But I will say the only other time I felt like there was not sexual tension but romantic tension between the two of them was when he was building his little boat and she walks into the shop and is like, I need help, I need you to come with me, you need to lead the team, and he's like, no. There was a bit of time there that really felt like they were gonna kiss but they didn't. At least that's, to me, that's
Well,
how I
and
felt
that-
with that scene.
And that's why I think earlier this season we talked about like why are they just so mad at each other? Was that them trying to be like it's a lovers quarrel
Oh, yeah.
sort of thing? And that's just like, now I think retroactively it was, and I'm like, ugh, like no, like this is not like it's odd, especially because like Dylan just said, we just got away from her being like kind of like they haven't said this, but she's like she had a breakup with Sarah, like they were falling for each other, right, in some sort of way, and that's how they even say that, oh, you're so weak, and because she was falling in love with this guy, and but like to pair up already of like okay, another guy, and then I imagine if this relationship doesn't happen, like yeah, the actual husband will come in at some point, so it's just like. I don't
Is he
glad
the
you'll
rebound.
Yeah,
maybe he could be the rebound. He look tell me in Fellowship he's a rebound guy, and don't forget in Hobbit, remember
Absolutely.
Galadriel it was with Gandalf, so it's like this
I
character.
hate
guess
all
she-
this. I hate all these fucking pairings that she has. Like it should just be the one Celeborn matching.
No.
That is
The one
that. Leave it
Celeborn to
there.
rule them all.
Listen,
Exactly.
Kirkland, she had to go and see a lot of people before she know Celeborn was the one because
They're like
you know,
comparing, their history of lovers, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I waited my whole
Just
life
you.
for you."
Yeah.
Just-
Well, there was
well,
Gandalf, there was Elrond,
there was
He wasn't a good
Halbrand, there
lover,
was-
but he was a good family man.
there was
so.
Anatar, there was
just
Sauron.
so big.
all versions of Halbrand,
Yeah, there's Halbrand, Sauron, Anatar.
all huge. Oh,
I
so
fucking
love
loved
Anatar the
Anatar.
most.
Yeah, his ears. Oh, your ears
got
don't
two
point like
cocks.
his. Yeah, his hair. His hair was just throbbing. It's so good.
the vines and everything.
Yeah, oh man, the hallucinations. Yeah, it was so good when Celebrimbor would watch. Anyway, so all right. None of us like that. Let's talk about Celebrimbor.
None of us like that.
Maybe there's some good stuff to talk about. Cause yeah, this scene absolutely loved. I love the type of like Matrix trick where he's out on his balcony, just drinking away, like as just the cut to like else, like just dying like beneath his feet. So it's like it's good, like not bad way. It's good comedically, but that little rat, the rat is what made him catch on.
Mr.
I liked
Mouse.
it. In the mouse, and I like they said because Sauron was so like his mind was split both ways, right? Of like, okay, he's with Celebrimbor, he's with the elves there, he's focusing on the battle. There's other stuff happening that he like forgot a detail. It feels like very much an Inception when they throw Ken Watanabe down, right? And he's like, oh, you've done this whole place great except this rug. Like, this rug is not here, whatever. It's like, oh, shit. And that's what it felt like. So everything from, I actually thought, he's still not always the greatest, but I thought this was Celebrimbor's like best acting when he comes out of it. I loved all the deception. I thought this was the, what's his real name, the actors? It's Pickett Perkins or Pickens something, right? Remember? Anyways, Halbrand, Anatar.
idea.
I thought this was like his best acting
Oh,
to
Charlie
try to
Vickers? Is
be
that
Charlie's
who you're talking
Vickers. Thank you. Yeah.
Pickens.
Charlie Picken Vickers. This was like to actually seem intimidating. That scene when the elves have the knives on him, and he turns like I got more to say, but I think great stuff overall for a storyline that's been very bumpy for me. So
Yeah, so with Celebrimbor, yeah, I think he was great in this episode, and again, I laugh at many times with this scene. Travis, the first thing I will say with him, because you brought it up, him just going into his tower, enjoying his drink, and everything's peachy. Could you imagine you're screaming down below, you're freaking out, and you look up, and the Lord of Erigion's just smiling, drinking his drink, like
Good
what the
morning.
fuck? Looking up
But even
like
though
Willem
that
Dafoe.
drink's not real, so he could have been just drinking Anatar's blood again or something.
Oh,
probably
totally.
was,
Yeah. So with Celebrimbor, now this happened twice, the first time when he had the realization what was going on, he walked out and a fucking cannonball lands and he just blows off the staircase. Jump 30 minutes later when he's trying to escape with the rings. And what happens? Another cannonball comes and he fucking flies off his staircase. Like, he just kept getting fucking pelted.
These elves are durable. Elrond took a full punch from that troll and went flying, so their back's real sturdy.
They are absolutely really sturdy. What was the other thing that I wrote down on him?
He had to do a saw trap too.
He had to do a saw trap. Yeah, I thought he
loved
took
it.
his whole hand off, but it was just the finger to get out of there. But
I
was
love that
pretty
he didn't even
crazy.
try like it on the metal first. Like it wouldn't have worked, but like I still would have tried.
Yeah,
You know?
that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
he was going to do.
Imagine
Um,
that. Galadriel's like, that would have totally broken it. Why'd you cut your thumb off?
So my only other two notes with Celebrimbor, I thought it was really funny when the second time he flew off his stairs and he wakes up, and the elves are like, "Oh, he's hurt himself. You know, let's get him back to his tower by order of the Lord of Eregion, Anatar or whatever." And then Galadriel shows up, and then they just change on a dime, like, "Oh, he's not alone. We'll go with him." Like,
yeah.
you fucking posers, get out of here. You guys don't deserve.
Galadriel has that effect on people. That's what I've learned.
Apparently,
Start
yeah.
kissing all the guys there. Yeah. I
Nothing wrong with that. You know.
I thought that was so strange. Yeah, like how easily it's like I get it. It's you know the commander
the
of the
Lord of
Northern
the
armies. It's Galadriel, but still, it's like no, this is the Lord of Eregia, and they're like just completely like discounting Celebrimbor's claims of, or like even just like anything he's saying, they're not believing him. And then she comes in, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a restless guy, and
Yeah.
they're never like, oh, sorry, you know, or like we were totally misguided, or like there's no
paid
like
for it,
guilt
though.
that's felt by them. They're like, oh yeah, now we're on this side, now we're on this side. They're just very stupid. I thought, which
No
was kind
battle,
of
you
strange.
know? I guess I didn't have a problem with that because I just felt like what I loved is the moment where they were going to arrest him. And then I think Sauron says some sort of line like, "You're not the only one I've been talking to, or you're not the only one I've been seeing." Like he pretty much just implies like his knights are just going around talking to everybody. And it's like, fuck, that's scary to think that it's like if what he's doing at Celebrimbor is what he's doing, and we saw like a little bit with the Lady Elf, which of course we'll talk about, but like if he's doing that with everybody of every night, you're just spend half an hour with Sauron while he just whispers sweet nothing in your ear. That's just like that's scary, and I think that showed when that moment. We will get to it now when the lady, you know, gets pushed, but he says like, "Look at his blood. That Sauron is black," and he puts his hand up and it's blood. That's where I actually was with the townspeople, because at this point it's just like, this guy has done nothing. He's given terrible orders that Anatar was skewering, right? And then now he's just in the middle. Imagine that in the middle of war, he's just like, that's Sauron. And to them, it's just like a regular elf. You'd be like, dude, this guy's fucking lost it. Like, we can't follow this guy at all. And then, like I said, just Sauron saying like, yeah, I'm kind of fucking with everybody right now. That's why I kind of believe, maybe it's a little rush with Galadriel, I agree with you guys, but that's why I kind of believe that, oh, his hooks are in this city way more than we even got to see, and that I enjoyed. So
I think it just had issues with the fact that, like, I get it if he is able to basically just like convince everyone that he's kind of Anatar is convincing everyone that Celebrimbor is kind of going crazy. But like nobody's really seeing Celebrimbor in any of these moments, so like this is the first time that they're really seeing him, and they're like not even really giving him a shot or like listening to anything he has to say. I just thought that seemed strange because no one had even really seen Celebrimbor, so the fact that he's like out here and just like totally, he looks like he's been tortured for like and like just gone through the ringer, and like he does sound a little crazy with the first things that he is saying, but I just thought it was strange that the elves, like, they weren't even listening to anything he had to say. It's just like, oh no, you're evil and we're not listening to you. And it just seems like the strategy that they're following from Anatar, it didn't really make the most sense too, of like what like he's like telling them to like reinforce the gates and like reinforce the walls because like they're coming to destroy the wall. They're like, we're not gonna listen to you. Like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, we're gonna listen to this guy that's telling us to not defend the walls at all. Like they just felt like peons that have no brains, and they're just following blind orders because this is the person that's now like the leader of Eregion. So it just, to me, it made the elves seem a lot dumber. You can make the argument that it is just because, as you said, Travis, like Anatar just has his hooks on the whole town, and I don't know. I think through some discussion, I could definitely agree with that. But I just think for what was shown, I maybe wanted more, like, actually shown there. Because we just kind of see him using his silver tongue on, not in that way, but his silver tongued words on Meridia, whatever her name is.
Miranda.
Miranda. A lot of M's in there.
Miranda from
So like that I get, but that's also like one-on-one, so he's able to just like really use his charisma, whatever his influence is on, and then we get to see the one-on-one between like him and Celebrimbor, so that makes sense to me. But it's just like when there's so many moving pieces and like everyone kind of has to be the same, I don't know, alignedness, like not even one person is questioning it. It was just a bit of a stretch for me. So yeah, I had some issues with that overall scene. I already mentioned, when Galadriel shows up, but just I don't know. It seemed a little bit messier than it had been in the past, and I think it is just due to like the one-on-one sessions that he had in the past.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there. Of just we really don't, like in this season at least, we haven't had a lot of players in Erangion. It's really Celebrimbor, Anatar, Murdania, and then like this one elf guard guy that we've seen a few times now, but like I would never be able to tell you his name. And he has a like a very one-note personality, and he's kind of like the leader of the guards, I guess. So that's just who we can, when we need that kind of character to pop up, he can be that guy. And so I think it's especially disappointing with Murdania's fate here. We're just like, man, that was such a nothing character, and I really feel like there was moments, like, mostly in the first half of the season, where I was like, oh, this is cool, this is something different, I like this character, and then I feel like she kind of just became, obviously she was falling for Anatar and whatnot, but then she kind of ceased to have any personality outside that, and I can get it to an extent where, if seeing what he's done to Celebrimbor, what is he doing to other weaker minds as well? And the fact that like he's probably been there for years at this point, I assume, or months at least. Like it makes sense that he'd have this kind of sway over these people at this point, but it does make it hard to like buy into a lot of these moments, and like certain shifts feel very quick and out of nowhere. So yeah, I just felt like some of that stuff was. I love the moment when he snaps out of the thing, and the fact that he caught onto this little time loop thing that was occurring was a really cool moment. But I just feel like after that it was a bit cheesy, like the acting from pretty much everyone. Like once we left that tower, I just felt like it was a little like the execution wasn't as on point, unfortunately. But my God, when Murdania, when Anatar commands Celebrimbor to smack Murdania off the wall, it was so quick, and yeah, I just couldn't stop laughing. I'm sorry, Murdania, but it's just, to me, it was like, man, we spent so much time with this character for her to just die, and like some random character, like the elf who dies with like 1,000 arrows in her, like Boromir in this episode. She gets a more meaningful, emotional death than Murdania, this character who like we've spent a lot of time with and should be more important, but just not the best.
The first time I saw it, I missed that Sauron pushed her, so I literally thought that Celebrimbor just fucking snapped and pushed her off because I was sitting with Emily talking. So that's why I rewinded. I was like, "Oh my God, did they just really make her push her off?" And then I was like, "No," it was kind of done comedically. I liked the idea of Sauron kind of again framing him even more, so I did like that. But it was
the smoking gun moment right then and there.
Yeah, it was an odd choice. She lands and she's somewhat alive, and then nope, an orc comes and beheads her too. So it's yeah. Brutal. So which again, I'm kind of fine with. I think that character, I guess, served its purpose. Did she need to be there? I don't know. Now it's like,
what purpose did she serve, though?
I guess
didn't
just
need to
to
be like a
show-
named actor. She could have been like an extra, honestly, with like what her actual impact on the season was, in my opinion.
I guess the only two things I'd say is it gave us another character for Sauron to show, okay, he's using his powers, his wit, and then it also showed that when at the beginning when a lot of townspeople were questioning him of like, should we listen to Anatar? And saying, no, like good man, good elf, good people. So he did kind of use her to twist the arm of the other elf folk there. So I'd say there was something. I just maybe wish there was a little more, but I guess maybe not now that we know the fate of her. So
I think that's a good point, that we probably did need more evidence of that, because other than that, we would have that moment where he goes to the mines and they just don't give a shit what he has to say. And we'd be like, okay, his hit right here is like 50%. That's not great. So it's good to have more people that we are following and we can see their kind of journey a little bit falling in line with him. So good point.
Yeah, the rumors that I was seeing some people talking about with this character was that she was supposed to be like Celebrion, or like just a different name, I guess, for Celebrion, which is Galadriel's daughter, who Elrond eventually marries. And I know that's why I was like when I was seeing those like rumors, and then like they're doing the comparison of the hair, like some people were making those arguments. I'm like, this is so fucking terrible. I hate this so much. I hated when Halbrand was like just using his charisma on Galadriel, and now he's like potentially doing it on his daughter, like on her daughter. It's just so strange to me. So in that moment, it just like the way that Celebrimbor just like backhanded her off the wall, just backhanded that theory out of this show. So I was so happy with that. And yeah, I don't know, for what's been going on in the show so far. I don't think I ever want to see Celebrion in the show. I just don't think it could. I don't trust them to do that.
She's coming.
That tale properly. And I don't know. I think there's a version of the show that maybe that could make sense, and we have Celeborn from season 1. But that's okay.
Yeah, I
That's
think if they
okay.
actually do the love angle with Galadriel and Elrond, I definitely don't want that, because that's just fucking gross. Then it's like, I know things didn't work out between us, but you should really see my daughter. You know? It's like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Not great.
The again, the what you talked about, Kirkland, the mannerisms and the certain things that these elves were doing. I feel like these elves were just very human, man-like, I guess, since their responses to certain situations, especially like a lot of the archers on the wall, and that's where that I was alluding to in the non-spoilers. Just the fact that I'm making these comparisons, and I don't mean to. It's just we have Middle Earth represented in two different avenues here with Rings of Power and then the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And so when you look at the elves from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I'm going to go to the scene here with Two Towers, where the elves are basically on the wall and just they're stoic, emotionless, just firing. Like they are, to me, they're like NPCs with how they are just so emotionless. And
More
it just,
robotic.
yeah, it feels more elf-like to me, like that. And then when you see the elves in here, like shooting off the walls and stuff, like these elves are just so emotional and so it's just maybe overly passionate in their emotions, and it doesn't scream elf-like to me. Even the way they were charging on their horses, that just felt like, oh, these guys just look like they're a bunch of humans, like men and women. Uh, but mostly just seeing them just handle certain situations, it just feels like, yeah, even with the Boromir she elf, when it felt like Elrond was throwing shade at her, because like, what are we gonna do? And Elrond's like, like if you were to fire an arrow, it could turn the tide. I felt like the way he said it was like she didn't do shit all until this point.
You fucking
and, like,
idiot.
yeah,
Shoot
you're
your
not even-
arrow.
haven't
The
even
amount of
fired
times
any
they cut
arrows
back
yet.
to him and his two cronies just like watching her get pelted on and just like not helping her. Like it was weird.
The in addition to this, when Elrond appears in Khazad-dûm and is approaching Durin, I really thought this was Sauron in disguise, because I did not see any lead up here to the elves and like the High King like just appearing here, because the last that they left off was the High King was like, we're not going to do anything, and then he just touches his ring and the scene ends. And then so here all of a sudden they show Anatar leave Celebrimbor alone in the tower. He goes off, and then we get a couple scenes later. We see Elrond just appearing in full armor in Khazad-dûm, and he's not responding exactly spot on to the way Durin's questions are. Like he turns away from Durin. He's giving him very mysterious responses, like the kind of responses you would give to someone if you're like posing as somebody else. To me, I just thought, okay, this is Sauron pretending, because he just needs the dwarves to come out and fight to delay the orcs from getting in and disrupting Celebrimbor's work. Of course, I am totally wrong with all this, but it's just the way they set it up. It was very weird. And the next scene, you see Anatar walk into the lab with Celebrimbor, so it felt very suspicious to me. But sure enough, then we see Elrond actually there with the army and the High King, and I just thought they didn't segue this properly, because now we have him set up with the dwarves now. So
I feel like I would have liked that version more, honestly. Like what you're laying out, I feel like it would have just. It felt like up until this point, Anatar was like setting up just like an absolute checkmate on Eregion. Like he's taking over the leader of well, he's all but taken out the leader of Eregion up until this point. Like he is basically running the show, and then he's also the orchestrator for getting like the Uruks there to like everything is just falling in place. So if it's also revealed that like he just showed up there like disguised as someone like that and just like totally fucking with the orcs, like that's like just a triple whammy of like an absolute defeat. And I would have been totally fine if it was just like an absolutely decisive defeat of Eregion. And like it's just like a really dour way to end off the season. Like obviously, you know, you got some light of the valor of hope and just going in that direction going forward in the show. But that's like an Empire Strikes Back type like ending of this season, and I would have loved it because we knew that the fall of Eregion was coming. It was in the trailers of the big siege, so to have this almost like a Helm's Deep type ending where it's like, oh yeah, we like held off, and I don't know, there's it's not quite over fully yet, but like I don't know, I just for what you were pitching there, Taylor, like with what we got in comparison, I actually think I would have got like that a lot more, and maybe that would have trimmed off some fat of dialogue between some derpy elves, you know. And
Question for you, Taylor, with how you're feeling about these elves, they're not the elves that you know and love necessarily. They're not ones you're familiar with. Do you feel that way for the Linden elves as well as the Erangion elves, or is it just kind of one or either of them that are standing out to you?
It's a good question, actually. Probably just the Eregion elves feel that way. The Linden ones feel different. They feel more stoic, and even I can't remember the guy's name, but the wisest and oldest of the elves. What was his name? He's one of the ring wearers, Kirkland. We saw him briefly.
Círdan, the shipwright.
Círdan, yeah. So
he's been kind of missing, for the
he's
last
been
couple
I don't
missing.
even know who that is.
He's the boat maker guy.
He was the one that was like
He
telling
counseled
Elrond
Elrond.
that there's positives to the
He's
rings.
throwing the rings off the
Okay.
boat.
Yeah,
But he
Elrond's like,
failed.
you're the
Playing-
most wisest elf.
playing
And
with
he's
the
like, thanks,
fish.
I'll take this ring, bitch. And he just left
Oh,
Elrond.
yeah, that
Yes,
guy, okay.
guy.
Don't forget to kiss Galadriel. That was the last piece of
Yeah,
advice.
use
Yeah.
tongue.
She's
Use
a great kisser.
And give her a lockpick while you're at it.
Yeah. So I'd definitely say the Linden ones feel much more stoic and emotionless.
Oh, fuck the Linden ones, though. Like, let's be honest. Come on.
They
Go
suck,
Galad.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
The
Feel-
Linden ones to me, they do feel like a more familiar type elf. I'm
They
not
do,
a fan of
yeah.
Galad, but, you know, they just feel like the Rivendell sort of style. Whereas the Arabian ones, yeah, I do feel like that. And maybe it does make a bit of sense to me why that's happening. Like, even when the Linden elves come to the battle, that feels very reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings movies. But yeah, with the Eregion, like, I feel like that city is just a city of like craftsmen and artists and just a chill cultural place,
that's
Mecca,
fair.
where people just hang out and make cool shit and love each other. So I don't know, maybe that's just part of it. Maybe they just are more emotional based on their culture there is different than the other elves who just like, you know, praise trees all day long and stand around in their robes. Like, it's just different strokes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Only thing I
Uh,
wanted to say that I forgot is I like the reveal of what the Nethril was. We talked about that a couple weeks ago of like, oh, how'd Sauron get this
Ooh,
Nethril?
yeah.
And it really was just like something he cooked up that's not good. So A+ reveal there. Loved that.
100% A+. I thought that was so fantastic, especially just like it's such a great visual for like how he added his own corruption to these rings, and it
Yes.
really differentiates them from like the elf or the elf rings, the elven rings, or like even I guess what was done with the
Dwarf
the
rings
dwarf
didn't have
rings,
any of
right?
that, really.
Yeah, and like I imagine he still had some way to corrupt them, like a little bit,
Absolutely,
especially with what's
yeah.
going on with King Durin right now. But like
Like a fingernail clipping or something. That you just
yeah, you know, a couple hairs, maybe like a little booger here
Little
and there.
spit. He's,
But
Calvin looks over and he's just,
Stop spitting on my rings, Xanatar.
oh, I thought you need some lubrication, my lord.
just hacking up big loogies in the fucking pot. but like, but like I don't know. It's just like, okay, this is why the human ones are just that much more extreme on the corruption side. I still like the reasoning that it is just because the men are the easiest ones to be corrupted. But this is like,
a little bit of that, right?
yeah, it's like, okay, that is a factor, but this is also just made from like the
Little
blood
extra
of the
juice.
dark one, right?
The blood
yeah,
of
so
Satan. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I had a question about that, which is like what is it exactly? Maybe we don't have the answer to this. Like, what is it that makes these rings powerful? Because I would have assumed that like you kind of need the mytho for these rings to actually have power to them at all. Like that's part of, you can have these different parts of the recipe, but if you're missing that core ingredient, then like the whole thing won't work together, and you can't just like in some recipes you can substitute something for something that's quite similar, like soy sauce or tamarind or something like that. But in this case, like you can't just take mithril and put blood in and the ring still works, like it still does something. Or maybe the rings just don't work at all and all they do is corrupt these people and don't actually give them power. I don't know.
I think like the biggest reason I would give, especially for like the ones that Sauron was a part of, is that like he's an extremely powerful magic like user, right? And like he is literally putting his own essence into these rings, so he already has just so much power in himself.
But isn't like the Celebrimbor is like he's building these based on his, or maybe that's part of it too. Maybe that's part of it. Like Anatar is like swaying how they're going to be built. But I just kind of feel like, isn't it like the great engineer, like the great inventor guy? He's the one who's like building these rings from the ground up. He's coming up with the structure for them and he's putting them together. So like, I guess I'm a little. I get that angle of the corruption angle of it, but I feel like shouldn't they also just not work because they don't even have the proper ingredients in them in the first place?
Yeah, my quick answer would be, well, he's also like he can also just make stuff with magic. So like I feel like he's already doing that, even just like creating a Region. Like I'm sure there's some freaking magic that went on to going into just everything that they have been making, whether it's ships or whatnot. And
except for the one point in the wall that's weaker than the rest
exactly.
of the wall.
There's no they ran out of magic that week for that one section. But I feel like Celebrimbor, he is able to put some sort of, and like magic I'm kind of using as a loose term there, but it's just like it is something more than just regular, I don't know, iron, for example. I think mithril is like something that he would have needed to just have it like a pure catalyst to like just, I don't know, hold on or maybe amplify. And I'm kind of just spitballing here. I don't know if this is actually accurate to how they were done, but I feel like for the human ones, like just the fact that you have Sauron's blood, like that would just make that such a powerful thing, especially just thinking about the One Ring and how like that was literally like he put some blood in these human rings, but like fuck, he
That
must
has
have
a
put a
spit,
kidney
for
at
sure.
least in the One Ring. Like that is a good chunk of himself, and that's why when
cock.
that's why when
I have two
a
weeks over.
Isildur chops his hand off and he fades into existence, he doesn't die because like his being
It's
is
kind of like
is that
Voldemort, right?
ring.
It's
yeah.
like your soul. With
the Horcrux thing.
the
It's
Horcrux.
the same.
like that,
same
yeah.
idea.
Which I kind of like in this way of the blood being in these rings for the men, because when they become the Nazgul, it's like they're so tied to Sauron and they are like his disciples. So I kind of like that. It's because there's a part of them. And for your guys' debate, I just go, oh, it's just magic. That's all it is. So for me, it's just like, why are they powerful? Because elves, they got some magic stuff, and Sauron's got some magic stuff, and they must just put some of it into a ring and it can work. But that's all I can think of.
Before we think of anything else, we're going to take another ad break here. We'll be right back. And we're back. So what else are we thinking?
One Lyndon thought we were talking about that army, Gil-galad, showing up. That was another thing to me that didn't feel earned, and I feel like maybe I'm missing a scene or forgetting a scene, but I just feel like with where I last saw Gil-galad, and don't get me wrong, I don't want more scenes of this freaking guy because I don't like him that much, but I still feel like I needed another scene or two of maybe Elrond convincing him or explaining what's going on, or someone else that he maybe trusts more because he doesn't seem to give a shit what Elrond thinks. But although maybe he does, because he actually does decide to send all his homies in to do this fight at Erangion. So I don't know. I did feel like something was maybe missing there for me to fully understand their motivation to go team up and do this in the first place.
It just seems like Gil-galad just kind of does what he wants, right? Like, no, I'm not going to go
Goes where the
join the
wind
war
goes.
effort. And then he's like, oh, I did come anyways because, I said it was lame at first.
But he yielded his command to Elrond, right? And then what does he say? He charges in like a king is needed where a king.
one coat.
What the fuck did he say? Because Elrond's like, you
A
shouldn't
king
be here,
goes
my
where they're
lord."
needed most. Or
Yeah,
something
what
along
the
those
fuck?
lines.
Come
yeah,
on.
No,
Where were you?
I fucking laughed so hard when you try to be like a badass with this one-liner. When he goes up to the troll and he says, "Go back to your hill and be buried." It's like, okay, guy, like, come on, let someone else do the shit talking. That was pretty weak.
So good.
It just seemed like he didn't do much. Like I know he like ran around and did a couple things with his little whatever the fuck that thing, a lance, I guess.
I love when he picked up the one out and just swung him like a fucking baseball. I like that. He could have done a bit more damage. I agree with you, but I think he looked very good effect wise.
He's a wielder of a ring of power. Like he should be the guy on the battlefield, just popping off. But no, he's just dropping one-liners.
Oh,
and-
sorry, you were talking about.
I thought you meant the
Gil.
troll with
Yeah.
a wielder of the Ring of Power for a second. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa,
me too.
I missed
Yeah.
that plot
I just know
point.
the
He ate
troll. I
one.
like
He
the
ate
troll.
one
Yeah,
in between
big
episodes.
ring.
No.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just like the One Ring, right? It grows for the wearer or shrinks. So
That
think it
cave
could
troll,
work.
if he would have killed Frodo and Felch, like, look at this. Fuck yeah. Behold.
One thing that I always love about a great Lord of the Rings battle is just the phases of it. That's one of my favorite parts is when the orcs get these crazy siege weapons, when they bring out the big towers, when they bring out the ladder things, when they bring out the suicide bomber, all that stuff. And so that's why I really just thought this episode was fun, even if I had a lot of issues with the writing and acting in some sequences, is because the battle was really fun. And for the most part, the CGI looked really great, and it had the phases element to it, like just fuck up the city, create some chaos, change the weapons to attack the mountains, to block. And I thought that what they were going to do is create the dam, and then that would like flood the city, and then that was what they were doing. But no, they were just blocking the water so that they could walk up to the gates, and then like all their attempts to get through that wall. So it was fun. I really liked just kind of the, I guess, choreography of how that fight kind of turned out. And it's funny just like how Eregion had like no defenses planned at all, like for their city siege. And I know Anatar is telling them not to do the correct things, but I feel like they should have had a few more things waiting in the wings to like help them defend in the case that they do get attacked. But once again, maybe that's just because Anatar threw all those things out the window in the months leading up to this moment. I don't know.
yeah, I liked the battle for pretty much the most part. I had an issue with just the whole Ravager engine, like siege device. It just seemed so inefficient. Like it seemed like such like the least possible efficient way you could do to like siege this wall of like you get close to it, you get these giant fucking pike things. Hopefully the orc with the hammer doesn't die. If not, you got someone else gonna have to pick up that hammer. I imagine it took a fucking while to get those nails into the wall. And then they just like pull back, and then it takes off a couple blocks, and they're like, "Yeah, let's do it again." It seemed like they did that like multiple times. It's like I feel like a ram would even be better at this point, you know? Like I know they don't have Sauron's fucking big black bombs that he uses in Two Towers there, but it just seemed like it seemed like the writers were like, "Hey, let's make this really like intricate siege device," and it's just like in reality it just probably wouldn't work that well. Like what if it's just like we can't pierce the wall with the nails? Like what do they pivot from that point on? Like it seems like they're really gung ho on like this is our one siege plan, and it ended up working, especially with the help of the troll. But it just seemed like a really slow way to take on the wall there, and I don't know. It visually looked cool, like the actual action was going on, but I think it's just we just kept going back to the Ravager device, and I was just like, the second or third time I started like really thinking about like the realism of this. You know, maybe I got too much Total War in my mind and thinking about those siege devices, but yeah, it was a choice for sure, and definitely something that's different, I guess, from other sieges in the past. So I can give them credit in that regard.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it did work at the end of the day. I mean, I do think this battle has been going on for a long time because it starts. Elrond goes from Lindon to Khazad-dûm, back to Lindon, and then Lindon prepare their army, and then go back to Erangion, and then like that alone is like weeks, I guess, maybe a month of time to do all that. So like this battle, like, and that all of that happens before they even get through the freaking wall. So like this is a long ass battle. That's probably why Taylor, that orc, was licking the blood. He's probably fucking hungry, man. He probably hasn't eaten in weeks at this point.
Haven't eaten anything but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Exactly.
The you mentioned the Total War there, Kirkland. Was it Total War is what you said?
That is what I said. Yes,
That's what you
I
said,
was just
okay.
excited.
The,
I've never heard you
just
say
excited.
that before.
Well, you mentioned that as a video game,
He's been
and
waiting.
this episode definitely had certain moments, like with the whole war sequence. And Dylan, you said the different stages of how things were unfolding with this battle. I really liked when that troll strolls out because it felt like you you sent in like you're doing the siege and you're in this RTS game and you hit that super unit and you can just deploy the super
Yeah.
unit kind of thing. And I really like that. That was pretty cool.
There you go. There's another thing we're doing for Extra Life. We're busting up the 360 and playing Battlefield Formula
Yeah,
2.
Fuck
that's like when
yes.
you get one of those. What do they call them? Like the commander units. Like
Yeah.
the troll comes out. Yeah.
One of them is like I think I don't know what they're classified as, but the Nazgul, the dragon, is like one of those like units in the Battlefield
fuck
where it's like
yeah,
that's like the
sweet.
top one, the Witch King. So yeah,
that
there
was
you
the
go. There's another thing
DLC.
we'll do.
I thought it was like the.
I think when
the
I
War of
bought it,
the
I
North.
had it was like a
Ultimate
Game of the
Edition.
Year
Oh,
edition or
man.
whatever. Yeah, I
Such
have
a
it.
fucking
We're gonna,
great
we're gonna
game.
bust it
Such a
open,
great
so,
game.
yep. I don't have much to add on Durin and the Dwarves. Like I think there's more to that next week. I thought
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
excited
Durin's
for next week.
speech. Yeah, I like Durin's speech. Well acted. I like that Shaw the Dad just being, but that was about it. So
I mean, we kind of picked apart their strategy last week, Disa and Durin, of just waiting for them to come back and summon some more bats on them. And when they were like just standing there ready with the pikes, or sorry, the pickaxes, and just ready to defend these mithril veins. I'm just like, man, are we really just double downing on this strategy here? Like, this makes no fucking sense to me. And then I was actually kind of relieved that the dwarves actually were just like, they're going on the fact that Durin's just kind of losing it and like they're losing faith in their ruler. So I like that just so much more than Disa just starts fucking screaming at them again. And I don't know, it's just like a battle between these two holding out against the entire dwarven kingdom of Khazad-dûm. So I was worried at the start, but yeah, it I don't know. I think that it also just shows like the resiliency of the dwarven people, how like although their ruler is getting somewhat corrupted, well, straight up corrupted by this
Full
ring
on.
of power and just total greed, like there is like they're not just blindly following him, like they are able to kind of free think on their own, even though they are still so loyal, and that's why it makes it so challenging of them being in this situation. And I think if you don't have another Durin, like someone to kind of lead the charge, maybe they wouldn't have fully been there. But I don't know. I was just really interested in seeing how the downfall of the dwarves was going to go approaching this season. But I like how it's going so far. And yeah, I am very much looking forward to next week. And this episode just kind of made me like think back of like the whole Balrog like reveal of season 1. It's like, these fuckers, like they just brought that up to just like get some like talk and excitement going, and like just been completely absent since that. Well, I guess we saw it one other time, right, through like another quick image of them thinking about something that's down. Or no, it was Anatar that did that.
yeah, he saw the fire and he's like, oh yes.
But like do you guys think like next season are we gonna get the like when are we gonna see this Balrog thing? I imagine they are gonna eventually tackle that because we have been exposed to it. But it just seemed like from season 1, it's like, oh man, season 2 we're gonna be seeing this Balrog, and then it's just been completely absent. I definitely do not think we're getting it at all this season. Even at the end of next, like maybe like end credit, like sort of that.
That's what I
range.
think we're getting. I think we'll
Yeah.
see it again. I think they're treating it like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones. How for a while every season that was like one of the last things you saw in the finale was, oh, they're still coming, they're still there. Or
And then
it'll
when
be
we
the
get it,
premiere.
it's extremely disappointing, and it's like, why did we
yeah,
even do
I'm
this?
hoping it won't be that case, but I think you'll see it maybe one more time this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Seems like a good theory to me. Random thing in Erangion, there's just a dog hanging out at one point. Is this am I forgetting, or has there ever been a dog in Lord of the Rings?
There
ever?
has been in this show because I think it was brought up at one point of like, oh, there's a dog, and technically there is a dog in Lord of the Rings Fellowship. They bark at the Nazgul when it's like, no, no
Farmer
hobbits in here.
Maggots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Good
hobbits
shout
here.
out.
The back and bag end that way. And he's like, get away from it. So yeah, no, there's dogs.
So
hanging
there's dogs,
around.
but there's not a lot of them. They're not
No.
as widespread as a Today Earth is.
Either a rare breed or a new breed, right? Because maybe there's a few of them, but they're gonna start more and more.
The
right?
They're
First
like the
breed.
eagles. They're very rare.
Yes,
They only
come,
show up when
they come and
someone's
bark,
getting-
and you're
All
like,
the
this
hybrids
guy's king. This
start
guy's
coming
king.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, good memory, but it's funny how that still was a surprising thing to me to see.
Have you seen cats as the feline creatures have made an appearance?
I don't think so.
Not yet. They're gonna spawn for more.
They're with the blue
Tolkien's
wizards.
a cat. He's a dog person, not a cat
Yeah.
person. So.
I respect that.
I would love to see a project that just really delves into more of Morgoth, Melkor's kind of story. I think that'd be super
That's the
fascinating. but
pre-prequel.
the pre-prequel. I always love though when he gets name dropped, and so in here, we got him name dropped, and I like that dialogue with. I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but I like that dialogue with Celebrimbor and Anatar when Anatar's like I hate treating you like this. He's like what? Like how Morgoth treated me, and I
You've been
love
tortured
that.
by a god.
That was
Well,
really
no, I
really
haven't.
cool. But just the name drop of Morgoth was really awesome, and I was trying to think in my head like, man, did they ever name drop Morgoth in Lord of the Rings? And they did.
Did they?
I'll give you one hint. Aragorn was
Not a
singing
hint, just tell
about
me.
was singing about Fellowship, but do you know the character that
time.
actually says Morgoth?
No,
Celebrimbor.
that's what I'm asking. I want to know.
Wormtongue?
I don't know.
Gollum?
Legolas name drops him.
Classic.
He's like
Oh.
a Balrog of Morgoth.
Balrog of Morgoth. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Nice one.
Back to Fellowship. All the stuff
Back
we
to
don't know that's in
Fellowship.
there is Fellowship,
Yeah.
the best Lord of the Rings movie.
It's a good movie.
I got nothing else.
Balloons,
Noteless.
premature balloons. There's the sequence when Elrond's in the field, he's seeing the light coming up, and it's very much just like a Two Towers sequence when he's
Very
like,
much.
"Look to the north, it's the dwarves," and
They
it like
told
it
me they'd come.
just instant like, I told you guys, my friends would come,
Durham
and
will
then,
come,
and then it's
Durham
just
will
not the dwarves, and it's
Yeah.
just
It's like this
He's
dead
born
Elrond.
here
One
as
guy who
well.
says dead as you could possibly
Well,
be.
Arrows
fucking
all
dead.
over his back.
they close the. No, he wouldn't do that. As he's got like fucking arrows in his back.
I
Like,
felt pretty bad.
listen
for
to me,
Elrond.
man.
They did.
That's pretty cringe moment for Elrond of like,
Yeah.
all my friends are coming, guys, and then, nope, no friends.
And it's just like, I don't know, for how epic that moment is in Two Towers of like, look to the south, it's Gandalf, and then it's just like you get that score comes in,
Yeah.
you just see like an Ian McKellen on that horse.
That CGI horse. He's holding on for dear life.
Get Eomer, Carl Urban next to him, like everyone's smiling and like, we're saved. And then this is just like the complete opposite. It was just it was just great. I don't know. I chuckled it. Didn't laugh as hard as the Melina, whatever. we're gonna
Murdanya.
call it. Murdanya. Yeah, and that's all my notes. So yeah, I'm good. It was kind of nice to not see Tom Bombadil this week, or any
Oh, fuck
Harfoots, or
off.
Stores, or Alfarazon.
Well, you know, the finale is just gonna be all about the Harfoots just fighting the fucking
just Poppy
Yeah.
and her
Men of
boyfriend.
And Tom
Mackin.
Bombadil's gonna go kiss Galadriel as well too. Just you wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, no, it was
first love.
a longer episode, and then pretty much all spent on two character storylines. So it's good. It's focused. Crazy.
Imagine if the whole show was like that. Ooh, what could have been?
I don't know if you need the whole show, but maybe more episodes like this. I think that'd
Just
be
cut a
smart
few
play.
characters, make
Yeah.
it more focused. I'm down.
Focus.
Brilliant. Well, that does it. We'll be back next Thursday for the finale of Rings of Power Season 2. I personally cannot wait to get back into Middle Earth.
I can
see what
wait, but I
Galadriel's
still
up
wanna see
to.
it. Travis, I don't think you said penultimate at all today, which I'm.
He
shocked
took it
to
from
hear.
me, but I'm excited that we had a good discussion on this penultimate episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be back. We'll see you in the search, the search bar.
We cry.
Why is it just in the most random?